mistakes that editors make. 8 of them. Let me just run through what I think are some mistakes that people do. People cut too fast. A lot of the time they don't trust the story that they're telling, and that just ends up distracting people as well. So when you cut too fast, it really distracts people from getting into your story, and that's not what you want. You want them to like go in with your character, into the character's world. You want them to kind of be there, and you don't do that if you cut too fast. You lose that kind of tension and interest from the audience, which you don't really want, right? It really just makes people less interested. But another thing is the formats. Like, people don't understand, for instance, the difference between 25 frames, 24 frames, 30 frames, whatever it is, and like how you set up your project. A lot of people might start a project and then they realize that, oh, this was supposed to be another format. And then it might be too late to change everything, or you have lost so freaking much of your time. And that goes into another one, which is bad workflow. So usually people start out and they just throw everything into the program. That's not the way you want to do it. You really want to make sure that you organize everything. You want to have stuff in bins and folders that are maybe templated. I have a template for every project. It has different folders for all the material that a project could have. Sometimes they are empty, sometimes they have a lot of stuff in them. But just having that template makes it so much easier. I also have that for the project itself in DaVinci Resolve. So if anybody wants that template, I have it on learndocumentary.com. You can download it for free. It's just a template that I use for like pre-mixing, all those things, folders, bins, smart folders, all that. I try to automate as much as I can. I don't want to do a lot of like double work, and that I think is something you learn from having done it a lot of times. This might come as a surprise to some people, but transitions are really lame. It doesn't help you tell a story. You need to like stop thinking that, oh, what kind of transition can I make with that effect on it. That does not help you engage your audience in your story. If that's all you got, man, do you have work to do. Start working on trying to learn how to tell a story instead. Like, those transitions are a fad and they will go out of trend, just like the star wipe did once upon a time. That was probably like super cool back then as well. So if you want to date yourself, be my guest, but I wouldn't do that. One super common thing is probably to jump cut too much. Like, jump cutting can be fine if you do it like deliberately, you have a reason for doing it. But if you just jump cutting because you don't have the footage or if you don't have any ideas, don't do it. Just jump cut when it is something for an effect. Those are the good times to jump cut. A very common thing that I see a lot of editors do, even if they're experienced, that's really to not use audio to build up scenes. Like, if you don't use it as you edit, if you wait until you're in the last stage of editing and when you do the sound mixing and all that to really build up scenes with audio, that's too late. You should build scenes with the sound design as you edit. At least it should be like a scratch version of it. If you don't do that, it's very hard to go into like the sound design or mixing stage and then try to like build up scenes, because the edit is kind of locked. So do that early on, and then you can kind of rely on the audio to tell the story much more. So a lot of people, they like listening to music, they love having it in films, but you can really easily go overboard with music and just drown everything with music. It just becomes like a layer between the audience and the story. So I think using too much music is a very common mistake. It's one of the most common mistakes that I see, is that you just drench all scenes in music. And that's something that I also do, like especially during like this sketch phase of the editing, where I'm trying to just try to find a rhythm and a tempo. Oftentimes I might use music, but in the end I might remove it. And I think that you also use music because you don't do maybe sound editing and sound designing at an early stage, so it sounds really weird and empty. So you put music on, and music always works. But when you have too much music, you lose a lot of attention from the audience. You create a distraction that kind of makes it harder for people to be immersed into the story. And if you want to do cinematic stories, using too much music is a very easily mistake to make, just because like music is nice and it flows and it doesn't make things boring. But if things are boring, it's probably because it's badly edited. So try to avoid music and only put it in the places where it has an impact and where it's supposed to have an impact. So more deliberate music than just having it everywhere where your editing doesn't work or your story doesn't work. Another thing is just technically bad cutting. For instance, there's no flow in it. It doesn't feel natural. So you can use like J and L cuts, for instance, to mask edits and make it a bit more natural. You can look for movements in a clip to cut to a different movement in the next clip. Things like that makes it like more smooth, which I think is an amateur thing to not do. Also using atmosphere to mask the cut is great. That's what music does as well, of course. And then like the other thing is just to strive for finding like a dynamic rhythm. It's super important. So these were like some mistakes. I have a course on editing, and that's about telling a story. It's on Skillshare, it's a free trial. So if you haven't already, check that out. Link is in the description. But it's really just me going through my projects, my feature films, The Pearl of Africa, which was on Netflix. I kind of break that down, show you how I came up with a narrative for that. And then for our new film in Kino, how we're making that one. I edit the scene and break that down as it happens. Skillshare, go check it out. And if you don't like it, you don't like it, but you can still try it out for free, so that's kind of great, right? This course will teach you how to edit a documentary film. I will give you my best tips that I use to make an award-winning doc that sold to Netflix.
If it's just for my camera, I won't trade it.
No. First edit I made, the thing that we saw was to simplify things. What is this story about in essence?
Joining us now is Johnny von Wallstrom, the director of The Pearl of
My name is Johnny von Wallstrom, and I'm going to be your teacher in editing. I printed out each scene, and you can just put them up. What do you need to start doing? I'm going to take you through my way of working, my inspiration in terms of storytelling and also editing.
Where you can see the whole town site, the mill, the tailings, everything.
This part here is just me trying to establish character, trying to establish the Yukon place, which is where this takes place. It all ends with the dog digging through the dirt, which is basically the toxic waste that they're wasting. The course will teach you how to build a strong narrative structure that gets the audience emotionally engaged. If you want to take your documentary to the next level, then this course is for you.